Hello, welcome to another episode of What the F. Today's topic, like the previous two that I posted already, is a pretty serious one. Like the first one was about women in the media, the second one was about Michael Jackson, the third one is about abortion. And it's at the moment where I'm from in Ireland, it's fresh in everyone's minds because at this very moment, I think, the government are debating and will be hosting or having a vote on whether to bring in abortion laws here in this country. So I just thought I'd, speak about it and tell you what I think and maybe your opinion. This all came to the forefront in Ireland last year in October when an Indian woman living here by the name of Savita Halappanavar was admitted to a hospital in Galway. She was 17 weeks pregnant and she was having complications. And the doctors who examined her, and there were more than one, apparently told her that the child was not viable. The child was going to die, and it will. Again, it's a sad thing for any woman to hear that the child you've been carrying is going to die and won't be born. So the sensible thing in many eyes, in her eyes at least, the most if I can use the word humane or compassionate, those are dicey words to use when referring to abortion, was to have a termination, not to prolong this child's suffering anymore. But the trouble is, under Irish law, no abortion. Abortion is illegal in this country and cannot be performed. And some of the doctors even said this. One nurse, not maliciously, I don't think, said this is a Catholic country. He was just stating a simple fact that as a Catholic country, the Catholic Church doesn't condone abortion, and Catholic Church pretty much ran this country for years. So it's not legal, which is legal in many countries, America as such, England, but it isn't legal here in any way, shape, or form. But the sad end to that story, though, is that the next several days she was diagnosed with something called septicemia, which led to multiple organ failure, and sadly she died. Now, the argument is, and what brought it to the forefront of people's minds in regards to abortion, is that had she been able to have that termination when she requested it, she'd be alive today. And perhaps at some stage in the future, if she so desired, have more children. But the point of the matter is she requested it and it was denied her under the law. Now that's a pretty sad indictment of this country, that a child, a baby, that will, again, this might sound callous or cruel, but it will never be born, it will never see the light of day. Its life was considered more valuable than this healthy woman, even though this child that she was carrying was never going to be born, it was never going to live. The only reason that it wasn't performed, because the abortion wasn't performed, because aside from it being illegal in this country, they said the child still had a heartbeat. Even though there was zero chance of the child's survival, it had a heartbeat, therefore can't be done. Now, my opinion in regards to this thing is, I always tell people whenever we talk about abortion, I always say I'm anti-abortion, but I'm pro-choice. Some people see it as hypocrisy or contradiction, but I'll explain what I mean by that. I mean, even the pro-choice people who want the legal right for abortion to be in law, even if they are honest with them, they don't want abortion. No one wants it to happen. There's no such thing as pro-abortion. It doesn't exist. No one wants to abort a baby, a child, a defenseless life. No one wants to do that. But what I want is for women to have the option, for women to have the choice. Because again, I'm a man. What right on this earth do I have to tell a woman what to do with her body? It's her body. It's her mind. She knows what she wants to do with it. Men contribute their thing to pregnancy. The women go through all the pain and the suffering and the eventual birth of the child. So when it comes to the abortion issue and the life of a child, the mother has a greater say. The father does too, But the mother has a greater say because it's her body. She has the right to decide what to do with it and what happens to it, especially if there's risk to the life. Now, I've heard of instances in the past before where women have had terminations in other countries because of a danger to their life. If they continue the pregnancy, they will die. Like in cases of maybe cancer, they can't have chemotherapy because they're pregnant. Cases like that. And it's basically seen, the Irish attitude towards abortion is seen as draconian, as old-fashioned. I mean, most of the countries moving on with it. I mean, America's got it, England's got it, and most countries around the world have varying levels of law in regards to abortion. Now, there's a hell of a campaign right now to kind of influence the vote. I don't think, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is no public vote. There's not going to be no public vote on this matter. None at all. But the government are going to vote on it, and the indications, early indications I've heard so far is that it's going to pass. But what bothers me about this campaign is you have the two sides. Obviously, you have the pro-choice and you have the pro-life. Again, everyone is pro-life. Everyone's pro-life to suggest that the pro-choice people are baby killers and they want to kill babies. That's ridiculous. No one wants to do that, but there are instances in law. I mean, there was a case years ago. I can't remember the year now. It called the Child X, I think it's called the X case, where a girl fell pregnant, and I think it might have been the product of rape or some other heinous act. I don't know, but the point is, she was 14 years old and did not want to continue the pregnancy at all, and she was actually physically prevented from leaving the country to go terminate. She wanted to go to England because obviously you couldn't do it in Ireland. So she wanted to go to England where it could be done. But she was prevented from doing so, and I'll plead ignorance. I don't know what the end result of that was, but it was sort of the kickstart for a debate on the law. Should there be abortion in this country? Shouldn't there be? And it's taken 25 years. They decided years ago, 25 years ago, that yes, under certain circumstances, it can be done. But it was never, the gavel was never swung. It was never brought into law. They just left it alone and ignored it, thinking, people will forget, we don't want to deal with it. Until the tragic case of Savita Halappanavar. Now, the both sides are fairly kind of, heated in their opinions. And again, everyone can tell their opinion. But the pro-life people, the ones who don't want abortion at all, are, in my opinion, taking it a bit too far. For two things. One, they keep bringing religion into the equation. Now that's the biggest mistake. They keep thinking, oh, God doesn't want it. God wasn't that. First off, again, it's for another day, but I'll just say this. How the hell do they know? Have they talked to God recently? Did God show up in their living room and say, here's what I think? No, I mean, these people are interpreting a book that was written 500 fucking years after the events, so the Bible is not a reliable source for anything. Okay? Again, another day. I might do a video about that. But the point is, they're resorting to outright lies. The pro-life people, they're very aggressive. I mean, our Taoiseach, Prime Minister to the rest of the world, Enda Kenny, I don't like the man, I call him the plank, but he's fighting for this law. It's probably one of the few good things he's ever done in his life. In case you haven't already guessed, I'm pro for bringing this law into effect. But he's been mailed like in plastic fetuses. People have yelled at him and his family. The pro-life side are getting really aggressive and printing outright lies such as this. Now that image I've just showed you there now is of a campaign poster that's been put up by I think it said a youth Christian group. Now we'll get to the Christian thing later. But what they're printing on that poster is an outright lie. Because if you look at the abortion laws of countries where it's legal, they all have a cut-off point. I think the cut-off point is maybe 4 or 5 months. In my opinion, anything beyond that is murder. But there's a cut-off point to which, if your pregnancy goes past it, then a termination is impossible, but then it is actually considered murder. Now, they're printing down posters and they're everywhere. They're up and down the country, and I see them everywhere in the city centre. And it's an outright lie. Because they're counting, because the pro-life people are actually counting, in my opinion, they're counting on the ignorance of other people to not have a clue about about what's going on. They're counting on the stupidity of people to think, oh, that they can't abort an 8-month-old. I'm not gonna support this law. But again, the fact of the matter is, again, that's an outright lie because, again, I said cut off point, and that's an outright lie they're resorting to, and that's one of the things for pro-life people that I don't agree with. And then there's this poster that they do put up, which I actually agree with. It's this image. So that image is essentially saying that abortion doesn't treat suicide, and it's fairly straightforward language. They're not twisting words or interpreting anything. They're being forthright and to the point in that statement. And as I said, it's one of the few things that I actually agree with the pro-life people, because the notion that abortion will treat the problem of suicide is there's no proof for it. And this is one thing the pro-life people have been saying. The pro-life people have been saying that there's no proof anywhere in the world, and top psychologists and doctors have all come to the conclusion that abortion does not treat suicide. If you have a woman who says, I'm suicidal, I want this termination, or I'll kill myself, there's apparently no proof anywhere that this has ended well, that the abortion treated the problem. Because again, suicide is a psychological problem, and an abortion is a physical thing that will cause psychological problems. Now, again, it's just common sense to me that if a woman is threatening suicide over a termination, she has that termination. Common sense to me dictates that's not going to solve the problem because it's psychological. That's not something you can cut out and live out. It's in the mind, it's a mental scan. Those are the hardest to hear. Now the reason I'm against that section of the law is because you'll have people who might have been denied under other circumstances using this law, basically saying, essentially, they might lie and say, oh, I am suicidal, I'll kill myself. And it's a dangerous thing. It's dangerous that to a point that they might abuse that. Again, as I said, they might lie about their reasons for the termination, and if they're convincing enough, they'll get what they want. And it's just, the pro-life people, there's one thing the pro-life people are afraid of, is it'll open the floodgates to a come one, come all policy. Whatever your reason for abortion, come here, we'll do it. No, I'm not necessarily for that at all. Again, as I said, I'm pro-choice. Women should have the option to do this, but I'd rather they didn't. Not that I'd rather they didn't have the choice. I'd rather they didn't do it. Because it's sad. You're killing something. I mean, if it's caught early enough, some people have debated when does life begin? Is it a life or is it not? But again, it's a woman's choice. It's their body. They do what they want with it. Set up. But this suicide thing is the one thing they've been banging on about because it's dangerous. I wouldn't be for including that in any way. So that's the point where I agree with pro-life people. Now, the one key thing that keeps being dragged up in this case is religion. I've seen the news reports, and I've lost track of the amount of people I've seen that say, "Oh, it's against God. It's against, Jesus don't want this. God don't want this. It's against God. It's in the Bible. Whatever." It's I don't agree with it. Again, if you're religious, I mean, if you're religious, you're entitled to your opinion. Everyone's entitled to your opinion. Whether you're religious or not, you're entitled to your opinion. But what I don't like is how religion keeps being dragged in. I'm not a very religious person myself, but I don't condemn religion. If you're religious, all the love to you. It's just I'm not. So the very idea that you're dragging religion into this is a ridiculous notion. The only things that should be involved in this debate should be common sense, reason, and logic. Because when you introduce religion into the mix, it gets very emotional. And when things get emotional, judgment is clouded. Judgment is clouded, you can't make a reasonable decision. So I'm not suggesting we fucking cut off emotion entirely and be clinical and cold about this decision. I'm just saying religion brings too much history and too much emotion, and people get fairly fanatical when it comes to religion, and it's dangerous. Well, that's all I have to say in regards to that. Sorry I went on for a bit long, but it is a pretty emotional subject that I have a lot to say on. Wish I could say more, but I think there's a limit on YouTube videos, so I'm gonna leave it there. But if you watch this video, let me know what you think. Let me know your opinion, what you think. And next week's topic, I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's gonna be a lot more upbeat because I'm aware my first three videos now will have been quite serious. Next one's gonna be one when my friends see it, if any of them watch it. They're going to be like, of course he's going to talk about that. Of course, because it's something I'm passionate about, and I hope you will be. So, again, thanks for watching. Hope you liked it, and I'll see you next week. Bye.